Welcome to the Tenant Podcast. I'm Todd Pearson here in Denver, Colorado with my brother, good friend, and partner, heavyweight champion of the Western podcast world, Wes Brown.
I think that's a lot of emphasis on the heavyweight champion.
Well, how's your New Year's resolutions going?
Oh my God! Well, I think it's going. If my intentions were, I think, to do reverse psychology, so I'm gonna gain weight. I think I'm actually gaining weight. I think. Oh my God! But I wanted to say, just when we thought the heavy load was off our shoulders and we were gonna breeze into the new year with excitement, craziness happened last week. Gotta love it. I'm so excited. This is it's going to be an exciting year, I think, Todd.
We're on it. We're on it. It's a roller coaster ride. So 2021.
Make sure you buckle up and cinch in tight because this is going to be a ride.
Yep.
All right.
I just want to give a shout out. We made this known on social media this week, but we appreciate and thank to all the artists that we've had on and all of our listeners across the world. We were informed this week by our server host, Buzzsprout, that we produced 53 episodes last year and 99 hours of content. It was weird to see those numbers. I was like, wow, that's a lot of content. And we've been downloaded in over 600 cities across the world and 55 different countries. So thank you so much to our listeners, and thank you so much to the artists that we've had on. We appreciate your time, and we surely couldn't have done it without you. So here's to you. All right. We got, did you want to say anything else, Wes?
Nope. I think that was great. Thank you so much. And well, since I'm here, listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. I know we get kind of wacky sometimes, but maybe that's why you're tuning in, because we're wacky. All right, Todd. What do we got going on today?
It's a new year, and it's that time when we think about the things that will make us more successful in our art life. And that means assessing our business skills and tactics, looking at both what we do well and where we can improve. Join us today on the program are Julia Rymer Brucker and Jessica Loving-Campos, both artists and entrepreneurs. They are co-founders of the company Artboss. Julia and Jessica, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Todd and Wes. We're so excited to be here.
Thank you.
You're both artists. I want you to tell our listeners a little bit about your art and your background. Julia, would you like to go first?
Sure. I'm Julia, and I'm an abstract artist and fiber artist and the co-founder of Artboss, and also an art educator. I'm a Colorado native, and I studied here in Colorado at University of Denver School of Art and Art History, getting my BFA. And then I also have a master's degree in fine arts and painting from Pratt Institute. And I was a professor at Metropolitan State University and Regis University, and briefly Rocky Mountain College of Art and Design and Community College of Denver back a ways ago. And I'm also a working painter, and I also make fiber art, and I have 2 children. So I stay very busy. And so my work really explores my emotional and spiritual experience of the natural world. And I create abstract mixed media paintings as well as oil paintings. And I also now create fiber art that uses a variety of different techniques. And all of it is really exploring the ideas of time, the cycles of nature, and my engagement with it, and kind of how it makes me feel, kind of that transcendent experience is how I would describe it. And I use a lot of color and a lot of expressive marks and whatnot to get that feeling across. I have a show coming up at Regis University O'Sullivan Arts Gallery that opens in about a week and a half. It's January 19th. And then we have Artboss, and we present workshops and we provide coaching and education to creatives who are looking to build their businesses and their careers. And we work with all kinds of creatives. So we do work with artists, but we also work a lot with designers, photographers, writers, dancers, performers, anybody who's in the creative field that needs to learn things like branding, communication, digital marketing strategies, that kind of thing. And we work with a lot of the colleges and universities in Colorado, and then we provide coaching, we call it 2-on-1 coaching. So you get 2 for the price of 1, and then a little bit of some workshops here and there. So I think that covers most of it.
Yeah, fantastic. When do you sleep?
I'm tired by about 7 o'clock every night.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Jessica?
Yeah, so I am a bit of a serial entrepreneur and an artist as well. So I am a painter. I paint large-scale mixed media color field paintings, and they really focus on the expansive quality, the yawning expanse of being outdoors and feeling so small. They're meditations on color, and they're devoid of form. And currently, I am showing with a gallery down in Dallas. I have been showing in Santa Fe for several years. I don't have any shows scheduled other than a small group show up in Crested Butte in the fall. So I'm just kind of waiting for 2021 to take form. And then I also, my husband and I started a design studio, a full service marketing studio. We're now in our 14th year, actually. And our business is called Spiregraphics, and we support clients all over the country. And we do branding and social media, marketing, graphic design, web design, or creative Swiss Army knife, really. And then artboss is this really elegant marriage of those 2 businesses that I have. So Julia and I met back in 2017, and we were talking about ways in which we can help our fellow creatives and really start a conversation around how to build a business around our creative passions, because we are business owners, even though we sometimes don't look at ourselves that way. And so that's really what started artboss in 2018. So we're in our 3rd year, and it's been a fun ride so far.
Congratulations. That's fantastic. And I'm glad you guys, met and are doing this. I mean, you guys have a lot on your plates. You're both mothers, have children, and then you're artists. So focusing on your artwork and then your various entrepreneurial endeavors. That's very admirable. Obviously, you saw a need, and Wes and I have talked to so many artists that, have gone to art school or university and have a formal art education, and almost every single one will tell us that the one thing that they didn't get in a formal art education is the business side, or very little. Why is that? Why do universities and art schools, they're great about giving you this foundation and helping you find your voice and set you on that path, but they really kind of set artists up for failure, and that they don't give them the tools to succeed in the real world with selling their art and the business side of things?
Yeah, unfortunately, both of our experiences kind of fall into that. I went to Eckerd College in St. Petersburg, Florida, and it was a great school. I went for art the last semester. I got a little snippet of how to write my CV and how to do slides. Not that I'm dating myself with that. And so, yeah, we really didn't get anything in school. And I think things are changing now because universities are bringing Julia and I in to have a conversation. So that's really promising to see that we're working with a lot of universities and colleges around Colorado to really guide that conversation. And the students are really excited about that aspect of being a creative and having a business.
In academia, it's a different mindset. And I think that the professors often, they're there to train you in how to make really good art and how to build your voice and your vision. And they themselves, I found, don't often see the business side. And so in 2009, I left academic teaching and I moved to the San Francisco Bay Area with my husband, who's in technology consulting. And it was this eye-opening experience of watching basically startup culture happen around me. This is a great recession. Like, everybody's losing jobs and everybody's like, well, what am I going to do now? And it was the growth of the tech boom, the second one. And it really changed the way I looked at myself, because I ended up connecting with people who were small business owners. They were also women. I joined a momapreneur group. So moms who want to be entrepreneurs, and they were life coaches or nutrition coaches or yoga teachers or writers, and it was like, I'm making a product and selling something. I'm going to look at it like a business. And that was a big moment for me. And I really buckled down and started learning how to use the internet, how to use email newsletters, how to use websites, all this stuff that you have at your hands now. We don't have to do slides anymore. Thank God. So it's really a mindset shift. And I see some of the colleges and universities in Colorado starting to make that shift. And so the ones that we do work with, they'll bring us in repeatedly to do presentations on different topics that their students are asking about. So they're responding to what the students are asking to. And so I'm seeing change happen. It's been slow, but it's necessary. And they're going to have to keep going with it. And more schools need to do it, because there are so many people who get out of art and design school and they're just like, deer in headlights. What do I do next? And that's what we want to help them avoid. Like, here, no, you've got options.
I think you guys are so smart in starting Artboss and providing these services, because like you said, the tide is changing a bit. People realizing just how important it is to have these business skills. And I will tell you that, from my own experience, that when I went to art school, I went to Colorado Institute of Art when it was known as CIA. I think there was 2 sections of the class that started when I started. So there's 40 kids in each segment of the class. And by the time we got to graduation, I would say probably maybe 10 of those were still around and graduated. Mm-hmm. And of those 10, I'm going to guess that maybe 3 or 4 of us still work in the industry as photographers. So, yeah. I mean, and a lot of that I attribute to not having any kind of business classes. I think we got one class. We were on quarters. So we had one quarter with one class that talked about business. Everything else was just, trial and error on your own to figure it out.
I didn't have any business of any kind. I was like, here's how to write a CV and here's how to apply for grants and residencies. And it was like, okay, that's great if I want to be a professor, but if you want to sell what you're doing, that's really hard. That's not much to go on. So I have same stats of people I went to graduate school and undergrad with. Very few of us are still in the business making it. And also it does take a certain, I think, personality that just really loves it and wants to keep going despite challenges and obstacles.
I think we always hit on like the square one of, if you want to do this professionally, you need to realize that you are a business owner. And I think most people don't even realize that, because it feels different to be an artist, right? Like it's a different type of business, but it's a business, very much a business. And so we always have to embed that into our conversation and say, like, this is where we are business owners.
So I got a question real quick. Of all the artists that you've worked with, are they like mentored by other artists in the in the actual business side? So do you see a lot of mentorship going on, or are they really just kind of out there on their own, just trying to just shoot from the hip?
Most of the time, I think they're out there on their own. There are other, we certainly have competitors, and there are plenty of business coaches that really can help artists build business, understand pricing, all of that. But for the most part, most of the people we work with are just kind of fending for themselves, trying to figure it out.
Yeah. Because I can imagine, trying to think of who the photographer was, but he would always have mentors under him, and he would teach him the business side of stuff as well. And I was actually looking, and I wish I could think of who it was, but I was looking at his students who are now, they're my age. And their looks are very similar. A lot of the same, you can see the same style, but they also attributed a lot of their success to him mentoring them through the business side of it as well. So
Yeah, I had some of that personally. I had Jeffrey Keith. He's an artist here in Colorado, and he was my professor at University of Denver and kind of continued to mentor me through grad school and a little bit beyond. And he was very business minded and very savvy. He would, he really talked about pursuing galleries and how you present yourself the right way and how you network. And so I was introduced to it. I don't see a ton of it, but I know that there definitely are artists who will say, yes, I was mentored by so-and-so at my school or someone I interned with or something. I unfortunately don't think it happens super often, just based on our experience of, Jessica, how often did we get asked, at the co-op galleries, hey, how do you write an email newsletter? What's this Instagram thing? That's stuff that, because it's also pretty new for a lot of people. It feels like it's been around forever, but it hasn't. And I think older artists in particular struggle with it and need someone to come in and show them how to do it. Yeah.
And I think Julia brings up a good point about co-ops. I think co-ops as a model tend to offer some of that. And we both have been involved with co-ops here in Denver. Denver has a great community of co-op galleries. So Julia's been at Core New Art Space. I started out at Next Gallery. I moved, I'm one of the original founders of Sync Gallery. Then I moved to Core New Art Space and Edge too. And those galleries they served as incubator spaces. They allowed me to meet a tribe of fellow creatives and to really understand some of that business aspect of a gallery, of what it's like to involve community, to put on a show, to try to gain some sort of exposure. And so those organizations really do help with some of that mentorship, I think.
So you mentioned that you teach people how to do some of these things, especially because we live in this technology-driven world. The artist doesn't want to say, write their own email newsletter because they'd rather just create. Do you offer the service of actually doing it for them if they want, or is that not part of the equation?
Yeah, that's not artboss. That would be, if you could hire Jessica's Spiregraphics company to do that. But artboss is really about providing training and skills and kind of the way to do it yourself, so that you are empowered as a creative to market yourself.
We'll review things. So we'll offer, for a lot of our services, like our 2-in-1s, we offer website audits. We help kind of tweak some of the minor edits in a CV, helping somebody like fine tune something that they're going to submit to a gallery for consideration. So we help with some of that. But as Julia said, we've really tried to root ourselves more in empowering our fellow creatives, and this is how you do it. And so it doesn't have to be scary.
So it's all educational based.
Yeah.
You're teaching people how to do this for themselves and take the initiative. That's great.
Frankly, a lot of creatives don't have the funding to hire someone to do it for them, especially when they're first emerging and starting out, or if they're pivoting in any way from one career sphere to another. They really need to know these skills, I think. I do know artists who, as they become more and more successful, they can hire people to write their artist statements for them or manage their social media for them. And that's fantastic. But we're kind of there at the ground level, like, hey, you can do this yourself. It's not going to overwhelm you if we show you how to do it strategically and what works for you.
So you're essentially that missing link that is not being, at least at this point in time, regularly injected into a regular degree program or art school program.
Precisely. And I think a lot of artists, as they get into galleries and they have representation, they tend to rely on galleries to do the business side too. So they're not really like taking that aspect of the business on their own and saying, it's up to me to market myself and I'm the one that should be involved in my success. They're just kind of relying on a gallery to do that. And that's not the best practice either. So we're trying to, again, empower the artists to realize that these are all aspects of your business and they're equally important to creating work, is also building the business around that work.
There's certain elements that you have no clue about because there's nothing out there with a written guideline, like here's everything you absolutely need to know. So there's always something that kind of pops up. What maybe it's submitting sales tax? Or what happens when I sell art in New York City and when I live in Colorado? What's that entail? And shipping, and how should I ship? And there's a lot of things that I think a business like yours can really help with people. So that's exciting to hear. And then I think the other thing that a lot of artists don't, you kind of touched on the gallery thing. Well, there's good galleries and then there's bad galleries. We were talking to a photographer last week who had an experience with a bad gallery that actually ripped him off from a lot of money. So just to have that training saying, most people are good, but every now and then here's how you keep abreast of like what's being sold and how it's being sold and what's my commission and, that kind of stuff. So that's great.
Yeah. And it's nice because I feel like at our events and our workshops, we like to open up the room and talk about a lot of that, and talking about contracts with galleries and what you should look for and what's okay and what's not okay and what is a vanity gallery. All of these different aspects that I think so many of us, again, we're just by ourselves working, so we're not asking the questions and maybe we're not aware of something that's going on. So it's important to build that community and offer that chance to ask questions, have a conversation.
You touched earlier on the organizations and schools that are bringing you in to do what you do. Tell us a little bit about who those people are and who you've been able to do these workshops for.
Yeah, so it's been quite a few colleges and universities across Colorado. So Rocky Mountain College of Art and Design has, I think, brought us in the most. They really are trying to create a robust professional development program for their students. And they respond, like the students will say, we want a workshop on websites. And they'll be like, can you write a workshop on websites? And then we'll do it. So they're really listening to what their students need to learn. And they're bringing us in. I think we gave 4 talks this year for them. And then University of Northern Colorado in Greeley has an arts entrepreneurship program. And they have a whole semester on professional development for their graduating seniors and graduate students. And they'll bring us in we did a full workshop, like 2 hours solid, all our content for them 2 years ago in 2019. And then we did other stuff last year as well. They also do other events. They had really fun ones, just things to make it fun, like somebody to review your resume or your cover letters, stuff like that. We've also presented at University of Denver School of Art and Art History and with their career services. And Community College of Aurora brought us in. So a lot of different places all over Colorado. We've done 2 workshops at the Curtis Center for the Arts in Greenwood Village. And that's been really great because it's a different audience, usually older people who are mid-career artists. And then am I missing any, Jessica?
We've done our immersive all-day workshops. We were doing them yearly. They were annual. And that was fun because that was an all-day thing. And we did that up at Mount Vernon Canyon Club.
Yeah.
And so we would do those up there. And that was a lot of fun because we would have a group of, 10, 15 people, and we would do an all-day thing. And so we've done several of those types of workshops that are more targeting mid-career, or maybe somebody's like switching their career. They're going into another creative career of some sort and trying to figure out how to do it.
Yeah. So it's been interesting to see I would say that the mind, like the attitude shift is taking place within the art world and at the academic level, that there are schools now seeing the need to prepare their students for a business life after graduation. And we've been really happy to take part in that. And then also, the art centers and whatnot, seeing that need as well. So it's starting to happen, definitely.
That's awesome. So not just schools and universities, actual art organizations are reaching out to you as well. And you can vary the curriculum depending on who your audience is. So fantastic. Yeah. How has COVID changed for your business, ArtBoss? And how have you seen it change for artists?
Yeah, so big change. We went from having completely, all of our events were in person before 2020. And so we moved to a virtual model with the rest of the world, and we still did as many events, I feel like, Julia, but we just did them online. So we kind of missed that interaction. The conversation wasn't as fluid. We didn't get as many questions or much engagement, I feel like, as much engagement as our in-person events. So a new offering that we brought on board in 2020 was our Pivot and Polish. And that was a 2-on-1 coaching session with anybody who wanted to work with us that just wanted to go through their website, talk about the ways in which they're showing up in the market during 2020. And if there are some ways to pivot ever so slightly to really gain more traction in a very strange and changing environment.
So what kind of things with that are you teaching people, like specifically?
Yes, it depends on what they're coming to us for. So for some people, it was, I need you to look at my website and kind of top to bottom, tell me what's going on with it. You know, do I have all the information I need? Does it look really good? Is the copy good? You know, do I have all my social media links? Because your website, then it became your brick and mortar when nobody could go outside. We also worked with someone who was switching from a brick and mortar space to an online marketplace platform, kind of teaching them how to work with that pivot and what that would look like for creating a blog, social media, that kind of thing. So those pivot and polish sessions were really individualized in what people were needing based on what their business was and what they were looking to do in this new reality that we all live in. Because the art world really did have to shift dramatically, and people had to get very creative. And they're still having to, since we're not really full back in person yet, you know, even if there's limited capacities at galleries and museums.
And the big pivot, I think, that happened for a lot of our customers was just moving an entire inventory of artwork online so that it could be purchased online. So not relying, unfortunately, on galleries that could not be open. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of the conversations we were having, as Julia mentioned, moving from brick and mortar to purely online, took place. And my studio, Inspire, did a lot of websites for artists that would help them sell online, because that's how we had to move.
Yeah.
Nice.
And we talked also a lot about diversifying your income streams and where you're selling. And I think sometimes artists get into this trap of thinking that they'll get a gallery and that's it, and they're done. Kind of what Jessica alluded to earlier, of they let the galleries do their work for them. And galleries are struggling right now too. There's one closing all the time. We lost 2 really good ones in Denver with COVID. So artists are having to find ways to move their work online, but not just rely on a gallery. Like, look at online marketplaces, look at building out your website, look at different curated spaces that are starting to pop up. I sell with a company called Serena and Lily that has an online art collection that's curated, and it's purely online. It's, you know, they'll put the artwork up sometimes in their design showrooms, but for the most part, it's an online marketplace. And there's lots like that out there. Like art consultants, for example, too, are a really good resource for artists to look at. So we were just kind of helping artists think, I call it thinking outside the gallery box. And I don't want to say totally negative things about galleries either, because, you know, I've worked with some wonderful ones and there's some great ones here in Colorado, but they are struggling too. They need artists to be partners if they are represented in building the business. And artists also need to know that they have a wide variety of options out there in the world.
There's tons of artists and only so many galleries. And it's been interesting during this pandemic, you know, with people pivoting. In some ways, I mean, it's easy to look back at 2020 and we're still going to be in this situation, I think, for, you know, probably the remainder of this year, even with a vaccine and everything. You know, as hopeful as I am for it, I don't think things are going to start looking somewhat whatever normal looks like, the new normal looks like, till probably 2022. But I feel like in some ways, this has been kind of a blessing for artists. And the artists that we've talked to, they consistently have said that this has actually been a really good year for them, because it's forced them, like you kind of acknowledged before, that it pushed them out of their comfort zone and learn new things. We had to learn how to use the Zoom platform in order to do our podcast. Probably wouldn't have done that if we hadn't been pushed into that scenario. And I feel like artists are really, here we go, Wes. We had a whole conversation.
There it is. Here it comes.
Here. That, artists are really adept at, with change or for change, adapting to their situation and making it work, because that's what we do normally. We troubleshoot problems and figure out a solution. Have you found that yourselves in talking with artists this year?
Definitely. Oh, Jess, are you?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, yeah, I found that at first, I think it threw a lot of people for a loop. And they were like, I saw a lot of social media posts in my artist groups, like, oh, I don't know what I'm going to do. And then people slowly figuring it out. Like, then a few weeks later, it'd be like, hey, I produced a series of digital, limited edition digital prints. They're now available on my website. And it was like, yeah, awesome. I think it did force a lot of very creative thinking. The galleries, the museums, the art centers, they all were doing the same thing. All of a sudden there's technology for 3D art tours online. And, suddenly everybody knows how to Instagram Live. It was great. I miss being in person personally. I really, really miss seeing art in person. I miss being with people. I am not alone in that, I'm sure. But I think artists are resilient and they're persistent and will survive this. I mean, we just keep making art.
And how lucky are we that we're artists, that we can explore everything through our art? Because, oh my gosh, last year it's crazy. And so it's just nice to have that space, that platform, that ability to just explore things creatively and deal with our emotions and just process what's going on, this maelstrom around us.
Todd mentioned, he mentioned, oh, here we go, Wes. And I was like, oh, here it is. Just wait for it. He does. A lot of times he talks about the resiliency of the artist and really and I have to give him, kudos for that, because I think what makes artists resilient is the fact that they operate in this creative sphere. So they're able to pivot to a creative idea and think creatively and look outside the box. So I think Todd's right on when, I give him a little bit of crap because he says this all the time, but he's right on. I think the creative mind allows you to be a little bit more resilient because you're willing to pivot. Even though I joke about it, I give him kudos for that. I was going to ask, and you kind of answered it, but are the galleries as resilient? Are they doing the same thing as artists?
They're trying. They're run by creative people too. So I've seen a lot of different approaches that different galleries have taken to trying to stay in business. So for example, that 3D art tour thing has become a really big thing. I found been a little more savvy with their social media. But when you have a high rent, which was a problem before COVID, that was like a huge problem for a lot of galleries, especially in major cities like San Francisco and in Denver. They were having a hard time already. Just, you got to pay the rent. So in San Francisco, when I lived out there were galleries that had to close years ago because of rent issues, and they pivoted to online already. So they were like years ahead of all this. I've seen some here in Denver, like Bobby Walker. She's figured out a way to do art openings where you basically have a timed ticket. And so you get to see stuff in person, but it's socially distanced. And I think Sandra Phillips Gallery did that as well, was on a K show. So they kind of navigated it as best they could. And some of them came up with pretty creative ways. But again, that rent thing.
Yeah, that's a killer. It's a killer because it's so, tangible. You got to have cash in hand and to pay for this big facility. And we know, especially in Denver and in San Francisco, those properties are not cheap. The other thing I wanted to say, Jessica brought up this whole idea, and this is what we kind of alluded to this early in when the pandemic happened. I'm really excited to see what comes out of this, how artwork pivots. And there's that word again. But I think because artists are painting from their experience or their feelings and their emotions, I'm really excited to see what comes out of it. Can you two attest to that? Has your artwork changed And how has it changed, if you could? Jessica, why don't you start?
Yeah, I feel like my work has been a little bit slower in its construction, which is interesting, and a little more intentional. And maybe that just fits the overall vibe of my schedule last year, where everything was slower and more intentional. So I'm interested. I'm still kind of in the middle of it, so it's hard to define how it has changed, but the process feels a little different. And it does feel like I'm exploring some different ideas. I think being isolated has really affected it too.
Julia?
Yeah, I noticed a big change with my work. Not so much in terms of the way I make the work, although I did add in new techniques. I now do fiber art. And for many years, I was just a painter. But then late last year, I started getting into new techniques with fiber. And this past year, really buckled down and started applying it. And I did a lot of pieces I did one piece in particular that ended up being it's called Counting the Omer, Counting the Quarantine. And I'm Jewish. And so the Jewish world pivoted online too. So suddenly we're doing Passover Seders and like everything was online. This is really weird. And there's this practice of counting the days in between Passover and the next holiday, which is called Shavuot. And it's an ancient harvest holiday. And you count 49 days. And so I thought, I'm going to make fiber pieces, little paintings on fiber and sewn about this time. And then 49 days passed and we're still like, this endless yawning time. And so I was like, well, I'm just going to keep going. And I put it all on this big piece of linen, and it'll be in the show at Regis. And it's just lots of sewing, just slow stitching, and some more painting and collecting of different materials, kind of as records of what happened. People sent me stuff and I would put it in, or I'd find something in a thrift store when I actually let myself go outside. So for me, it was actual new explorations of media that were a direct reflection of what was happening in my life and the world.
Let me ask you this, since we're on the subject of making art, making your own art. We've had discussions this year about the emotional places that people are at in processing this and their mental health. And burnout is a factor in regular times for artists. Have you both experienced any kind of burnout? And when you do, either in good times or the current situation that we're in, what do you do to help combat that type of thing?
Yeah, so I think the burnout was real when our 5-year-old daughter was at home and we were trying to pretend to be teachers that we're not. So that was really hard, running several businesses and then trying to be there for our daughter and guide her through this process of doing online learning, which is really difficult for younger ages, difficult for everybody, right? And so there was a lot of burnout there, along with all of the emotional stuff around everything feeling like it was crashing to a halt. So yeah, definitely experienced that. And I think the one thing that really helped, I noticed, and this has always been the case for me, has just been getting outdoors, getting away, and just camping or just going up to the mountains has been such a salve, has really helped kind of step away and feel like this is not all consuming. There's something outside of it. And to just get outdoors has really helped.
That's a really good reset, actually. In good times too, right?
Yeah.
Like just getting yourself outdoors, sleeping in the outdoors. They've done studies that really helps reboot your whole system by sleeping a night or two in the outdoors, going camping. So that's awesome. Julia?
I don't really have a good solution for burnout.
Just keep plugging along.
Let me know. I'll do whatever you say. For me, I'll be honest. My Jewish practice really deepened this year, and it sounds weird to say that, but I found that Jewish practice involves a lot of gratitude practice and meditation and staying mindful and focused in the moment. It's kind of designed that way. So Shabbat practice, which is, the day of rest on Saturdays, Friday night to Saturday, like we started doing family dinners every Friday night. And then Saturday I'd do these online services, and, you know, people are like, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, it's just gratitude practice, really, if you get down to the core of it. And it's mindfulness. And I think that really helps root me. So it's very meditative. And I'm a big yoga practitioner as well. And when I'm really not feeling good, I need to stop and do yoga or some sort of like focused mindfulness to get myself back to some sort of homeostasis. I will admit it's been really hard with 2 kids at home, husband, everything's online. And I echo what Jessica says too about going outside also is a big thing. I think especially us Coloradans. Suddenly the trails got really busy.
I love that you both had similar and different takes on it, and both of them are completely valid. I don't think that you can talk too much about the importance of rebalancing yourself in some way, shape, or form. You're talking about getting out in the outdoors, Jessica, and Julia, you're talking about being a little bit more connected spiritually and really thinking about what you're grateful for and doing meditation and yoga. Those are all really important tools. So yeah, I totally agree. And I'm glad that you guys are doing that. And I think a lot of people, artists or otherwise, could benefit from either of those 2 solutions. Sorry, Wes, go ahead.
Oh, and I was just going to say, I totally agree with you, Todd. What you're saying is right on point. You know, I did a lot of weekend driving, just going out in hitting some old country roads and just communing with nature. And it's made all the difference. I wasn't quarantined like all of you in Colorado because we don't quarantine in South Dakota. You know our governor. Now, come out. It's free. Land of liberty and freedom is right here. But we should have probably been quarantining. But that being said, I still needed to go out and commune with nature. And I always experience a spiritual awakening when I do that. I'm glad you guys are doing that too. And, you know, get in touch with your spiritual side, whether it's on a hiking trail or doing Shabbat. Yeah. That's so important.
Yeah. And it's really become a big part of, I realized after doing this for almost a year, you know, the big part of my artwork. And I didn't realize it before, like how much my work was about spiritual connectedness and kind of meditation and kind of bringing light and color into the world. Because, you know, the world's a dark place at times. And I can't live in that space for long. It's not healthy for me.
I have to echo that my art practice has always been the place where I go to bring all the stuff that I need to process. And so it's been my sanctuary, and it has been a very spiritual practice. So it's been nice actually to share that with my daughter too. She's picked up painting as well. And often throughout quarantine, her and I have painted together, but to share that experience of really just being in that creative space and creating something based on just whatever you want and processing whatever you need to is powerful.
That's wonderful. I mean, I can't say enough with, you know, having children myself, how important being engaged with your children are, what it does for them. And you have this tiny window, you know, where, you know, you're hands-on as a parent, or you should be, I believe this. And you're giving them that foundation that they will carry for the rest of their lives. You know, they'll look back at this time, no matter if they realize how difficult it was at the time or not, they'll think about the pandemic of 2020 through 2022 or whatever. But, you know, your daughter will think about all those times that she got to spend with you in the studio painting together. And who knows what that, you know, will open up for her, whether she decides to pursue art or she just relishes that experience. But it will make you much more connected as a parent. And I love hearing stories like that. I think that's really special.
One thing I want to mention too is we talked to another artist named Topher Strauss, and he has a son named Oliver. And those two are like two peas in a pod creating artwork. Oliver's sitting next to him painting beautiful works. And he's a, I don't remember how old he is. Do you remember how old he is? He's like 10, isn't he?
I think he's 10. I think you're right.
Yeah, I think he's 10. And I seen Instagram posts with Topher and Oliver. In fact, there was one just this week with Oliver. And it's just reassuring to the future when you have parents like you, Jessica, and you, Julia, and Topher doing their artwork with their children. I think that's just, and I love this, and I wrote it down, bringing light and color into the world. I love that.
Thank you.
So thank you for doing that and sharing that. I appreciate it.
I was just going to say, I set up a little area in the studio for the kids in my studio, just because that way, also it's a little selfish, and I get to make art, they get to make art, but it's good for them because they're staring at screens all the time now, and they need to do things with their hands. It's a human need.
There's no substitute for that. I firmly believe it. And in this day and age where even in good times where the kids are, and I'll date myself here, but we used to have recesses 3 times a day when I was in elementary school. You get a little one in the morning, a large one right after lunch or before lunch, and then you get a mini one in the afternoon. And kids had the ability to get out their energy, and they don't get that anymore, and they're plopped in front of screens all the time. So doing something where they actually are engaged and making something and using their brains, and not that you can't do that on a, somewhat on a screen or learn something, but it's not the same kind of engagement when you're actually physically doing something and thinking out stuff.
Yeah.
And we're so focused on STEM that we take away a lot of the art classes, and man, to learn how to express yourself artistically, whether it's writing poetry or writing short stories or doing paintings or, pottery or anything like that, that is so important. And we're totally just kind of throwing the baby out with the bathwater to readjust for STEM, which is important too. But
I will say though, my daughter's, her school districts, we're in the Jeffco school district, after because they pivoted online very quickly and they didn't really have a plan. Nobody was really prepared. And then after the summer, they heard some feedback from the parents, and they now schedule in the recess. So everybody turns off their screens at a certain time, and the kids have to go eat lunch and go outside and play. That's like what they're supposed to go do. And then they also put their they call them specials, so art, music, and PE, back into the online school schedule. So I was so relieved because awesome. I was like, okay, well, if they're not going to teach you art, I'll teach you art. But there's all these kids then who they don't have parents like, Jessica and me, or Topher, the kids, they're artists with artist parents will get it. The kids who don't, then they miss out, and it's not fair. And so I'm really glad that Jeffco did that. It was really important. That's good to hear.
Yeah. I think that's wonderful. And I'm not sure all districts are doing that. So kudos for Jeffco for doing that, because man, that stuff is so important.
It really is. It teaches those critical thinking skills that I think are missing in our current education system. And, I know that my children are older than, both of yours, but I feel like they missed out on a lot of that in their education. And if there's anything that I've learned from this past year, it's that, to look at the silver lining. And if some of the stuff that came about because of the pandemic makes us rethink things or gives us a reboot, that's the one thing that I've learned in this past year, is not to focus on the negative per se, is that, like you mentioned before, Julia, the gratitude, and think about all the good stuff that's coming out of this. And I truly believe that when this is all said and done, that it'll be looked upon, and maybe we won't see it directly as we're in it, because we never do, right? But I think what we're going to see is a renaissance happen in our society, and I'm excited for it.
Yeah, I think you're right. I'm hopeful too. I think this last year has really helped my husband and I understand also the importance of work-life balance as entrepreneurs. It's so easy to roll along on that hamster ball and not take time out. And as parents, we're really we're showing our daughter that, we can build our own thing, and it doesn't have to take over our entire life. So that was another big important thing of like taking time out and realizing that there's such importance in that, to slow down and take a break.
I echo that.
And one thing I have to say, Jessica, at least you're in a hamster ball and you're actually moving around the room. I'm on a hamster wheel going nowhere.
Oh dear.
So I want to circle back to the whole pivot and polish thing and talk more about artboss. So the pivot and polish, from what I understand you telling me about it and what I've seen on the website, is it really for the artist that kind of has some stuff in place that you can have this mini session with them and kind of point out what they can improve upon?
We've had a wide range of people who've taken it. So it's really for, it's very individualized. What were you going to say, Jessica?
Yeah, pretty much the same thing, that it is individualized, and typically they have to have something to show that they've established some path up until this point, and they want to consider the ways in which they can pivot to be a little bit more successful or to connect with more potential clients in this environment.
Gotcha. Okay. And so how much does this cost?
It's $99 for a 1-hour session with Jessica and me. And then if they
I think that's phenomenal.
Yeah, if they want more than that, we have a pro coaching package that's $500 that includes a 2-hour individual assessment with us, and then a specific action plan for your business that's based on the assessment that'll provide you with workable solutions, and then a follow-up session that's another hour. And then we have a big coaching package if they really need mentorship, and they can find more information about that on the website. And then if they really need more, we have an individual hourly coaching sessions for $100. And we've had people who need like 3 hours, to really buckle down and look at something. So they can just kind of talk to us with what they need. But the pivot and polish is specifically $99.
And we can look at whatever material they want us to look at. It can be tailored around a website audit, or it could just be talking about their social media. It's pretty much whatever they want to bring to the table to talk about. And our other coaching sessions can be tailored around, they want to apply to a specific gallery and really fine tune how they're showing up. It can be as specific as they want.
Do you guys give breaks for students?
Yeah,
we do.
Yeah, so it's a 20% discount off our hourly rate. So the special student session is 90 minutes for only $120.
That's really, really reasonable. Mm-hmm. I mean, your prices are really reasonable. And I think people that are finding themselves kind of stuck, this is a great way to kind of get unstuck.
Yeah, I think it's important we don't put it outside of people's price ranges. Obviously, a lot of artists don't have like huge funding, but also it's an investment in their business is how I would describe it. It really is investing in yourself as an entrepreneur and as a business person. And I think it literally pays itself back.
Right. For the price of a shoebox print from Bob Raglan or a little Charlie from Michael Untied, you can get yourself some great coaching and mentoring.
Yeah. Invest in yourself. Yeah. That's great. And like Wes said, I think that's totally reasonable. And now's the time to do it. At least in my business, January, February, as things are starting to shake out as a commercial photographer. Now's the time where I really concentrate on, the things that I need to do to better myself and my business for the coming year. So take advantage of that and at least explore the pivot and polish. What are some of the things that artists do well? And what are some of the things that artists really drop the ball on, do you think?
I think that obviously the creation of work and like building a body of work, working on our creative work, I feel like artists really excel at. But then the problem that we always see is scheduling in the business aspect of that. So understanding like social media and how you use that and how you should schedule that as part of your time. And maybe it's the financial aspect of having a business. It's all the businessy stuff of having a business that I think people kind of struggle with. They can't toggle between creating work and then over here having to run the business.
Yeah, I echo that. I really see people are very dedicated to doing their craft and building a body of work, and they want to get it out there. But then oftentimes what we'll hear is, I don't like social media, or I don't really get why I have to do an email newsletter. I don't see the point of that. So there's a little mind shifting, like seeing yourself as that entrepreneur that for the art to grow, you need to build the business. I think it's really important. So having that persistence and dedication to the work and to the business side.
How important, and we have this discussion all the time, we talk about social media with artists and how they implement it. How important is that, those social media platforms in this day and age, do you think?
It's crucial, especially today when everything's online and we really are not doing anything in person. I feel like it was important before, and now it's even more important.
Yeah, it can't be neglected.
And what platforms do you think are the most pertinent for visual artists?
For visual artists, Instagram is kind of my go-to. And I think for a lot of artists, Pinterest can be really helpful as well. And we talk about LinkedIn all the time. People don't think of it, but it's actually a really great platform.
I didn't think too much about it, but I started pushing the podcast on LinkedIn, and I've gotten some good feedback, and I think it's working. So it's good to hear that you believe that LinkedIn is a good platform for artists, even though most people think of it as like a corporate business type of environment.
Well, it's a good audience for your artwork if you're wanting to sell to the corporate world. So, I mean, there's that side of it. Do you see anything on the horizons of new social media that might change here?
Right. Well, there's like TikTok, and I tried to get on TikTok and it kind of overwhelmed me, like literally sensory overload. But I think if you're like in any way a performance artist or a musician or even a writer or somebody that has something that needs that video medium, that would be a really great place to start investing in.
Yeah, I've done. Here we go, Todd. Here's Wes's one. I've done some deep dive research into TikTok. Now I'm stuck. I'm not a creator on TikTok yet. Maybe that'll come. But the one thing I do see a couple artists doing time lapse of their artwork, and that is really fun to watch. Just what probably takes a week or days to create, they're doing it in less than a minute and a half, but so
I like Vimeo too. I do some artist demo stuff that I'll video and I'll put it on Vimeo, and that's great because then you can embed it in your website and use it different ways too.
Same with YouTube. Yeah,
for YouTube.
Same with YouTube. Yeah.
My problem with TikTok is that you have to spend time on it to actually start seeing stuff that's worthwhile. And so I finally got on TikTok to see what it was all about because Wes keeps talking to me about it. And then I think it was Thanksgiving. My kids are my go-to because they're 20 and 16. And so they start showing me this. And I'm like, after about half an hour, I was literally like, my brain was drained. Like, I saw stuff that I can't unsee, and I was like, I don't understand it. I still don't understand it. So, but I think it's cool that people are figuring out how to do that. My kids go, you just got to spend more time on it. I'm like, I don't think I want to invest any more time. After half an hour of seeing some crazy stuff, I was like, I could turn on the news and see that stuff. I don't need to go to an app, but,
I've wasted a whole Saturday.
I mean, what I say about social media, sorry, Wes, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, please do.
Is with social media, like a lot of times people get really overwhelmed, and I know the feeling. I get really overwhelmed. So if you're going to get overwhelmed, pick the platform you'll actually engage with the most and put your energy there. So for me, I really like Instagram. It's very visual. It's got a great community. It doesn't get overly political. So that's the one I put most of my energy into. And some people, they love Facebook and they're just on Facebook, and some people love Twitter, and you have to think about like your audience too. If you're a writer, Twitter is probably where you need to be. If you're visual, Instagram, that's kind of how I see it with social media, because it does easily overwhelm us and take over our life.
Well, and it's nice, especially like I'm coming off of a social media fast. So I haven't been posting for a while, and that felt really glorious, actually. So it's healthy to take a break too when you feel like you're overwhelmed.
It is. It is. I think the most important thing with social media when you're first starting out is you got to kind of get your hands dirty and really delve into it, not get discouraged, because it's easy to get discouraged. Like, I don't know what size my art needs to be, and how do I post? And, even Todd has attested, the more he posts on different on Facebook, the easier and quicker it's gotten for him. So, it's just, you just got to do the work. And, and I think there's some big payoffs for people that are selling significant artwork on Instagram.
Yeah, I did a big sale the end of or later in 2020, and it was all through social media, and I sold a huge amount of work and sent it all over the country, and that was all through Instagram and Facebook.
I don't know if you had the opportunity, and Todd knows where I'm going with this, to listen to our episode with John Lopez. And he's a found object sculptor out of South Dakota, and his stuff is truly amazing. You should check out his Instagram page, if nothing else. But he got invited to the Middle East, Qatar, right? Was it Qatar, Todd?
Yeah.
I always get that wrong. Almost blew it, but he talked to somebody else. They were going too, and they paid for five of his pieces and himself to come over there. He was the mainstay of the show. When you walked in, his stuff was viewed first, and what didn't sell there, they bought. So he went there and sold 5, and his pieces are huge.
They start at like $50,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good for him. That's wonderful.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah, huge payoff for him there. Yeah. And, and then now he's got worldwide, well, and he did before, but exposure that maybe he wouldn't have had if he didn't go. But it was a great opportunity for him. And when we were there last February, it's been almost not quite a year, but that he was working on some pieces to go for this year. And I haven't heard if he went or not. But anyway, yeah, so there's some really gold things out there if you can mine it right. So.
And I think the big thing too that we always talk about is like, so you don't want social media to overrun your life. And so you have access to these tools to use. So we always kind of recommend a lot of scheduling tools. So maybe Mondays are a great day for you to do a lot of content generation for your social media channels. Do that all on Monday and schedule it out. And so you don't have to do it every day. You can schedule it. It can be out of your mind the rest of the week.
That's a great tip. That's an absolutely great tip.
Yeah.
That is.
In our workbook, we actually have a mock-up of an editorial calendar, so people get a sense of how to schedule things out, what to schedule, that kind of thing. So that, again, it doesn't take over your life and you don't get the dreaded burnout.
Thank you very much, both of you, to speak on this topic. I love the fact that you just took a fast, Jessica, from social media, and we talked to another artist recently that had done the same thing, and he felt that that was refreshing when he came back to it. It was, he felt a little bit more the desire to participate again. I think that can't be said enough that, if you're feeling that kind of social media burnout, that it's all right to take a break from it. And I also love the fact that you talked about the whole scheduling thing, because I think people think that you need to be spending time on social media every day. But there's tools available with these different platforms where you can schedule it out. And Monday being that day where you're trying to wrap your head around what your to-do list looks like, making Monday part of that routine where you schedule out all your social media, that's really smart. I love that. With that said, do you enjoy doing the social media thing? It's a necessary evil in this day and age, but I mean, I've told Wes this, it's time consuming. I'm going to start taking more advantage of the scheduling thing that you just mentioned. But there's times where I'm like, I feel like I'm just forcing myself to go do it. Do you both feel kind of the same way?
Yeah, I feel like I enjoy, so writing for me is really enjoyable. So it's switching between painting and, posting on social media and doing all of the other aspects of my business can be a little difficult to toggle in between. But once I'm there, most of the time, it feels like it's enjoyable. Sometimes it is tedious. Yeah, Julia, what do you think?
I need to take a break. I spent this week on way too much social media. I enjoy Instagram because it's visual and it's a nice community of people usually. It doesn't get quite as verbally disrupted as places like Facebook and Twitter. So that one I don't really have problems with usually. It's very rare. But I will turn off the Facebook and the Twitter and just step away for a few days sometimes.
And that's a good thing. That's a good thing to do, step away.
Yeah, I mean, this week just got crazy, so.
So we have, speaking of scheduling things, Matt Ciso, when we interviewed him, they do all their mailings on Sunday. Like they prep all their mailings and everything is all done on Sunday. So like they're creating. And then Sunday, it's all about shipping. So I think that's a great way to do it, to compartmentalize the business side of things from the creative. And it gives your creative mind maybe a break, but you've scheduled it right in a specific day, and being consistent and persistent on it, I think is a good idea.
Yeah. And doing something that works with you. So for my email newsletter, I always do an email newsletter because I feel like they're really, really effective because they always get into people's inboxes, unlike social media, which only reaches like 2 to 6% of your audience. So I found doing it on the first of the month didn't quite work. So I do it, by the 15th of the month, and I schedule it out. Like, this is the day I'm going to send it. And that way it's always out. So I just kind of work my schedule around it.
You do a monthly then newsletter?
Yeah, I do a monthly newsletter. Yeah.
So compare the return on investment on the newsletter as opposed to social media. What do you think? And maybe you haven't done
I haven't done the actual numbers, but I find that I will sell more artwork out of the email newsletter than I will necessarily through social media. And it can be hard to track, because if I sell something through Serena and Lily, they could have found me through being on their website. They could have found me through social media, or they could be on my email newsletter list. I'll never quite know. But I will find that I just did a holiday sale as well. And I sold a lot of work off the email newsletter. I didn't super promote it on social media. I didn't go crazy on it. I just sent out a couple of email newsletters and sold a lot of work. So I find that they're very effective because it's repeat, you're in someone's world repeatedly and they see your name pop up. And with like Facebook and Instagram, they edit how many people of your audience see your posts. And so you don't know if people are seeing every single post.
Email newsletters tend to garner more sales in general. Really, email is still king, I think. You can get in front of people and you're getting in front of them and you even know if they open it.
Yeah, and you own your data too. So you have their email addresses and you don't.
So do you use an email service like MailChimp or Constant Contact?
Yeah.
Which is your favorite? Not that you're, promoting one over the other, but just curious, what do you use?
I use MailChimp. And I was kind of not a fan of MailChimp after they did a big pivot. I think that was right before last year. I use MailChimp. Artboss uses MailChimp. Inspire uses MailChimp. I think they're all kind of the same. And once you get in them and kind of get familiar, they're pretty similar.
Right.
Yeah. I used MailChimp. I experimented with some different ones, but I found that I liked their editor and just the setup worked for me. I think there's so many out there that people can use. There's even now Square, the payment processing service. They now have a setup like that. So people just kind of need to pick what works for them. And there's a lot of services, but I think MailChimp's pretty good one.
I used Emma in the nonprofit world, but on the personal stuff, because there's a free element of MailChimp, I've been using MailChimp and it seems to work okay. Here's the interesting thing for me that I found is, I know you can see how many people, that's the beautiful thing. You can see who opens it and who doesn't. Mm-hmm. And then when I was in the nonprofit world, sometimes people would be like, well, I don't know, I didn't get it. And you'd be like, well, I don't know, you opened it. But I would never do that but I was always fun. It was always funny to see where people would say, I didn't get your email. I'm like, I don't know, you clicked on it. So
at 2 a.m. You opened it 20 times.
Right, exactly. And you clicked on this link, which I appreciate. But so what do you use to collect email addresses? Because that's a big, you can do emails, but if you don't have a way to collect email addresses and then it's not going anywhere. So how do you collect that? How do you get your database?
Yeah, so I we just build like a form out through MailChimp and then integrate it with the site, with the website, okay. And then you can start collecting that way, and then it's automated.
Yeah, and
have you done? Oh, go ahead, Julie. I'm sorry.
I do that, and then I also sometimes if people find me a different way, I will ask them like, "Hey, can I add you to my monthly newsletter?" And that way, you'll know about art shows and sales first. And I get a lot of people that way. You can just ask, and back when we used to have in-person shows, people would fill out your guest book.
There you go. The other thing, I see a lot of people, especially in the podcasting world, what they'll do is they'll create some kind of meaningful PDF that they can sell. Mm-hmm. But instead of selling it, they give this piece of valuable information away, and it should be valuable. It shouldn't just be trivial junk. It should have some value to it, and they give it away for email addresses. Mm-hmm. And I thought that's an interesting way to do it. And I think it's fair because you're giving them, when you give something of value, to get their email address, I think is fair.
Yeah, so, I think that's a great method too.
Yeah, I've also seen giveaways like a free print. You enter a raffle for a free print or something like that. There's a lot of different ways to get people connected.
Yeah, I like that. Todd?
So you're throwing it back
to you, Todd. Back to Denver and Todd Pearson.
That's a radio voice, man.
So I have a question for you. Pricing, is that something that you guys work with artists on? We ask this question a lot of times with all of our artists as far as pricing. Some people don't want to talk about it. Some people are willing to help out by, sharing how they go about pricing. Is that part of your curriculum at artboss, is discussing pricing with an artist or helping them price their artwork?
No, we'll share the mechanics of how to come up with pricing, but it's so individualized, and we have chosen to not dive into that as one of our subjects.
Okay. I was just curious, and that makes sense to me because everybody does different stuff, and time is a factor, and
marketplace,
there's so many
venues,
so many elements.
Yeah, there's so much that goes into it. So we do talk about it, but it's not something we actually work with artists on. We primarily do branding, websites, digital marketing, social media strategy. We recently started presenting on how to build a professional portfolio, and then also kind of how to find opportunities and approach opportunities as an artist, how to apply for galleries and exhibitions.
How to effectively network, and also crafting your narrative is our big one. And that's just how to explain what you're doing and how you're doing it.
Yeah. I think nobody gives thought to that, their personal narrative.
No. Jessica, it was, can you give your elevator pitch? 3 drinks in at a bar, something like that.
Yeah. We always talk about like the 3 beer test on your elevator pitch. Okay. And if you can succeed in having 3 beers, then
giving your elevator pitch on the ski lift, very Colorado thing.
Hey, what do you do? I'm a painter. Important. I'm glad you asked. Here we go.
Yeah, I know, but
But that's so important. I mean, I used to belong to an organization called BNI, Business Networking International, and you had a 30-second pitch, and you practice that because there's a weekly meeting, and it's all about giving referrals. But at the beginning of every meeting, when you introduced yourself, you had to give your 30-second pitch, and they were timing you. It had to be at the time of like riding an elevator. So it's so important that people understand what you do, and especially because we have short attention spans, 30 seconds is about right. But 3 beers, after the third beer, maybe they don't care what you do because they're just having fun drinking beer with you. But no, I think that's great. I love that analogy.
Yeah. And I think it helps people understand what's unique about what you do as an artist, because a lot of times, especially when we do this with students, they're like, well, I make abstract paintings. And you're like, well, what are they about? Like what's special about them? And the elevator pitch, once you work on it, you hone it down, it becomes a thing that you can present in lots of places, and it really helps set you apart. So
Julie, I got to ask, how long does it take you at Winter Park to ride the chairlift up to the top?
I don't go to Winter Park.
Huh? What?
I don't ski Winter Park.
Oh, okay. Where do you ski? What's your favorite?
My favorite is Vail.
Okay. In Vail, how long does it take you to ride the elevator up? The elevator. Jesus.
Elevator?
How long is it? What is it called? The chairlift. There we go. There's my skiing experience.
A very long chairlift. It should really the test should be lift. Now it's called Chet Dream or something, but lift 1 at Loveland, because it's very fast.
Is it very fast?
Yeah.
Or
very
6.
short. Or 6. Yeah. Like, hi, I'm Julia. I'm an abstract artist creating work that explores my emotional experience in the natural world. And let's get off.
And we're off. See you at the bottom.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Winter Park's mad at you, by the way.
Oh, no.
Winter Park.
Edit that out.
Dang it. I will. I won't.
Not because I don't like Winter Park.
No, I know. I'm just kidding. It's all fun. We're having fun here. That's all.
Yeah.
Todd's serious, though, so back to seriousness.
Okay.
We can joke around. So I want to ask you, you both are really busy. I mean, your moms, and that in itself is a full-time job. And I assume that, it's great when you have a partner and you both are married that are engaged with your children. But even at that, it's still parenting is a full-time job. Then you're artists, then you're running your own businesses or multiple businesses. Do you discuss with artists the whole idea of routine and time management? Is that part of the equation with artboss?
Yes, definitely. We call it juggling it all. And so it's a lot of scheduling, of being friends with your Google Calendar or whatever calendar you use, because that's the only way through it, is scheduling time to do all the things, because you have to do all the things.
And is that one of those things that, I'm terrible at routine, and I'm a to-do list type of guy, but that's about the extent of my organization. I kind of sit down either each day, each day, or maybe if I'm in the right mindset, I'll make a list like on Monday of all the things that I want to accomplish for the week. And it's great because if I see that I'm crossing stuff off my list, like I probably did 2/3 of my list of last week because I have it sit in front of me. But as an artist and as a person that's not a routine person, how important is that? And are artists typically terrible with that sort of thing?
I think it varies. I'm a routine person. I just like it a lot. It helps me keep steady. I feel very blessed. We have really good childcare. My son's preschool actually went back in person in July. So I can put him someplace where he's getting taken care of and educated and playing happily. And so that's my time to really work. And I have to be very diligent and kind of guard that time. So I have specific days that are studio days, specific days that are business days. If I have meetings or whatever, I'm just trying to work around that. And then the kids, I don't schedule stuff in the evenings. I'm with the kids.
So there's a cutoff time, and then that's family time and business and every art, whatever it is. That's
I'm done. Yeah.
It's done for the day.
Yeah, and everybody's different. Some people do second shift. Yeah, go ahead, Jess.
Well, and I was going to say, and I have Inspire is during the day, Monday through Friday. I'm very firm on my hours, but I'm in the office at this time, and nothing comes outside of that, because that's, if it comes outside of it, it really messes with everything else. And then I have family time, and then I paint usually well into the evening after my daughter's in bed. I usually will just go into my studio and paint, and that's my time. And with my painting, I'm not as in a routine as Julia is. So Julia will paint every day, whereas I'm more like feast and famine, deadline, that really lights things up and forces me to get in and create a lot of work. So
So I'm sure talking to artists, because we all do different things, it's all over the board. What is one or a couple tips, if you're willing to share, that can help you get organized in your life?
Yeah. So the first one I think is using your tools. So getting, finding some tools that will help you with like management of your day, your routine, and what you need to do. And I really, again, like Google Calendar. If stuff is scheduled, it actually happens. Also, Asana is a great tool that we use for our studio, and it's just like a nice way to list out tasks throughout your day. Toggle is another great tool that we use all the time. That's a way to capture time. And so if you only want to spend a certain amount of time doing something, Toggle will manage that. So really finding some tools to help you work smarter, I would say, would be my answer.
Yeah. And I use Asana too for my day job. And the nice thing about it is it's free. It limits what you can do, but for everything I need to do, man, I don't have to pay a dime for it. And then my CRM, I use Zoho, same thing, free up to a certain level. And I haven't passed that level, so I'm paying nothing for those tools. And those are huge. Asana, I would be lost without Asana because that's how I track all my projects. And it's easy as, moving these little cards around. So yeah, I think it's a great tool. Julia, what kind of crazy tools do you use?
I just use Google Calendar, and I block off, like, I'll look at the week ahead and be like, okay, what's my studio days? What's my, business days? What's kid days? And just kind of plug it in. And then I'm very like, this is my studio day. This is when I'm working. And Jessica's right. Like, I'm one of those people that I need to be creating constantly. But that's how my creative brain works, is I believe in just showing up and just doing. And that's how I get the creative juices flowing, is just consistency.
So there's no, what do they call it, for lack of a better term, writer's block, artist block for you?
I don't. If there's artist block, I'm just push through it.
Yeah.
Just make crap that day.
But I could see, like, looking at a blank canvas. If you're not in the right frame of mind, it would be hard to create something maybe. But
it can be, yeah. But for me, it's like, well, just make something. Make something.
Yeah, Hemingway would write, and then he would write a little bit for the next day, and then he would reread everything. So to get him in his frame of mind, and then continue writing from there and do it in repetitive. So I wonder how many people start a painting knowing they're not going to finish it just to have something to come back to instead of facing that empty canvas.
Yeah.
Anyway.
It's interesting to hear how different artists work. They're like, Julia, you're very much routine, and you're going to go in there and make work no matter what. And Jessica, it sounds like you're, like you said, you're more deadline driven. That's the fire that's lit, right? That sparks the creativity, it sounds like.
Exactly. Yeah. And I find that I have to feed myself a little bit. So that's typically going on a trip where, again, we're really outdoorsy. So maybe it's going to Utah and doing a river trip for a week, or it's going backpacking, it's going camping, it's doing something where I'm feeding myself, going to a really great art show, going to a museum, filling myself. And then I feel like I can explore ideas and really approach that blank canvas. Not so scary.
And that's creative too. So you're creating even if you're not physically creating. That's what I love about your process.
That's awesome. So I was watching. I'd watched the movie a long time ago. Pollock. Have you both seen that movie about Jackson Pollock? Mm-hmm. He's sitting in his apartment, and after Mrs. Guggenheim, I think is who it was it Guggenheim that asked him to do this big
Peggy
mural?
Guggenheim.
Yeah, Peggy.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And so he's sitting there drinking coffee and smoking cigarettes, looking at this big blank canvas. And I love that scene because there's, like people are like, have you started yet? And he's just like in the corner, just looking. And it's part of the process, right? He's creating in his mind. And then when he attacks that canvas with those big body moves, it's just like, well, to music, it's like an orchestra. And it was really that segment that Ed Harris did for that was just amazing. So I really got a kick out of that. So, anyway, I don't know what, just that creative thing without creating.
Yeah. It's that dialogue that happens before you do anything.
I'm going to ask you a question. So Todd and I sat down with Georgia Amar. She's a wonderful person. Maybe you know her. And we were talking about doing photography. Both Todd and I are photographers. She said, I'd love to have a show for you guys, but you need to be bold. And I'm like an old hen sitting on an egg, waiting for that sucker to hatch, because I'm like trying to figure out what is being bold. What does being bold as an artist mean to you?
It means taking a chance that's outside of, I think, stepping into uncertain terrain, pushing yourself, whether it's in format, whether it's in style of work, whether, with Julia pushing into fiber art. So it's going into the unknown and being open to that void and exploring it.
Yeah, for me, it's exploring your authenticity and what's the true vision of what you're trying to do, and being brave and letting that happen. If you want to work with certain types of colors or marks or materials or approaches to work, giving yourself this kind of freedom to accept failure and consequences, and also that it could be amazing, but really embracing the process.
Those are phenomenal answers. Oh my God. I wasn't even expecting those. Though both of them are just wonderful answers. Thank you so much. God, thanks.
Thank you.
So you spoke earlier in the podcast about narrative, and then we kind of just briefly touched on voice. So I want to follow up with that question that Wes just asked as far as being bold. What kind of tools do you utilize to help artists that might be struggling to find their voice?
We have a worksheet for that particular part of our workshop, where you kind of work through, like, my name is, and I create, and it's about, and it's inspired by, and my superpower is, and it kind of goes through this step by step to kind of bring the ideas, because it's like with artists, things are kind of floating around, and I wish we had a visual medium for this podcast, because I'd show you some sort of like synergy, right? Isn't that the corporate word? Synergy happening, bringing ideas together so that you can form sentences. Jessica.
Yeah. So our 2-page worksheet really kind of goes into building this pretty substantial paragraph that then on the second page, people have to whittle down into this super succinct, statement that's a powerhouse that can be said in one breath of air and with 3 beers.
There you go.
Yeah,
and I'm glad you answered it.
Yeah, sorry, I just want to say it's different than writing an artist statement. An artist statement, you can get pretty flowery and poetic, and I think you can go in different directions. Whereas with trying to explain what you do and what your voice and your vision are more succinctly, you've really got to find the nuance and the specifics of what you're doing.
And make it accessible for anybody, so people who aren't necessarily in a creative field too, so that they can understand it.
I'm glad you answered that you have a actual structure to it, that there's this 2-sheet thing that you have developed for artists to work through and help guide them to that end result of finding their voice. Julia, before we started the podcast today, you had mentioned that you and Jessica have developed a workbook that goes along with these workshops. I want people to know that even though you're dealing with artists and you're artist yourself, and you just explained how artists are kind of just grabbing stuff out of the ether, right? That's not what you are as artboss, that there is a structure to this, and it's very well thought out, and there's a guidebook that there's structure to it, basically, that what you're giving in these workshops and these coachings to artists.
Yeah, we're not talking heads. It's very experiential. So with, say, our digital marketing module, we have a worksheet which helps you find your ideal client, which then helps you figure out what they read, what demographic they're in, what social media platform they might be on. So it kind of helps shape what you're doing. It's also because people learn differently. I think we talked about this earlier, that some people are more kinesthetic, some people are more audiovisual. And so having a written component and hearing helps people absorb information better.
We also talk a lot about social media. And so we have a worksheet that guides somebody through figuring out what hashtags to tie to their posts. And also really, we do a deep dive in exploring the brand. And so understanding the mechanics of a brand and how you want to make somebody feel before they've maybe even talked to you. So we do dive into a lot of aspects, including the website too.
So to convey this information via, just say a workshop, it's hands-on in addition to the lecture part of it, and you're doing exercises throughout.
That's correct. Yeah, it's a lot of writing. It's a lot of conversation. And it's a lot of us just kind of working through these different modules that we've put together.
Are you starting to work, or do you already currently work with people across the nation, not just in Colorado, correct?
Yeah, we've had people travel out to attend our in-person workshop from out of state. So we definitely have clients that are outside of Colorado.
Yeah, and now that we're online and can do our coaching sessions, from anywhere. So.
Yeah, so that's a good thing that's come out of this whole 2020 thing, right?
Yeah.
Now that you've learned how to pivot yourselves into offering what you do via online, and it's available. I mean, you can talk to anybody in the world and coach them. So that's pretty spectacular to think that it just opened this whole other avenue that, maybe you would explore, obviously, but, it kind of pushed you in that direction. And now it's just another tool in the tool chest, right?
Exactly.
Is there any kind of success story or stories that you would be willing to share with our listeners as far as somebody that was struggling in their art career and what you were able to do to attain their goals and make them successful?
Yeah, there's one person, and I won't name this person, but this artist is a really accomplished artist. And I think we've both known this artist for a while. And she was really wanting to go after a very specific gallery. And so she came to us and did a 2-on-1 coaching where we went through her website, went through her artist statement, went through her bio. We did everything. We explored everything and offered some advice in different areas. And she got into the gallery, and that was really exciting. And obviously, like, her work stands for itself. But we just helped with some of the initial just website stuff, the small stuff. She did the work, but it was really cool.
Yeah. And we've had other attendees where you just, because we all stay in touch. And one in particular who is based in New York, she's starting out kind of as a calligrapher and has expanded her business after taking one of our workshops, just kind of watching her grow. And now she's doing online teaching and also the calligraphy and selling art. And it's kind of been really great to watch her build other streams of income and build the business so that it's bigger than she ever imagined it would be.
Wow, that's spectacular. So in addition to doing the workshop or the coaching, you're constantly still in contact with people that have gone through what you do as far as a workshop or the coaching, and continue to give guidance beyond just the session that they've done or the workshop that they've taken.
Yeah, I think often, we see we have a couple people that will attend several workshops, or, we'll see students for multiple different events and different things that are set up through the schools. And so we start building a relationship. And so it's our events are merely just the start of the conversation, and we keep in touch, and it's really fun to watch them evolve and build.
I bet.
Yeah. And they'll come to a workshop, and then they'll say, well, but I really need this help with one specific thing. And then they can do a coaching session that's very individualized, gives them that attention that they need, and deep dive. My favorite thing is to feature some of our alumni, I guess, on our social media account. It's fun to put their work out there and share it with the world too.
Yeah.
That's great. Do you ever invite people that have gone through the workshops to come? Obviously not now because you're not doing these in person, but do you ever have them either on virtually or invite them back to a workshop to talk about their experience as kind of a
testimonial kind of thing?
Testimonial or
We haven't yet. I mean, we're in our third year, so I feel like we're still figuring stuff out.
Yeah, like that'd be, I think, down the road.
Sure.
Do more in-person stuff.
We have looked a little bit at partnerships, so finding other companies and individuals that we'd like to partner with that maybe explore stuff that we don't. So we've started looking into that.
Nice.
Obviously, networking and making connections are important no matter what kind of business person you are. Speak a little bit on that subject, because we hear that particularly with artists that are successful, they are in contact in some way, shape, or form, not just social media. We hear how important it is. And I saw it firsthand with Anna Kay's show that she did at the Sandra Phillips Gallery. She was doing these intimate artist talks because A, she couldn't have a big opening, and B, it was a way for her to connect with her, collectors and people that are being exposed to her art. She found it very refreshing to have that one-on-one or small intimate groups talking about her work. How important is that connection, do you think?
It's central, I think, to it's so important. And I went to Anna's show and really enjoyed the one-on-one with her, because I feel like when you go to an opening, it's a swarm of people and it's wonderful and the energy is effervescent, but it's really hard to have those conversations. So I guess that is a gift of 2020, is being able to really focus on those really those specific conversations. But networking specifically is so crucial, because again, it's not what you know, it really is who you know. And we always say probably 20, 30 times in our sessions that you need to bring business cards everywhere, even on the ski lift. You should always have a business card, because you never know when you're going to meet somebody that needs your service, that's looking for your work. It can never be expected in one spot. Like, you have to be ready to have a conversation wherever you go.
Yeah.
I'm glad you. Oh, go ahead, Julia.
I was just going to say, for networking, I also always emphasize be brave and reach out to the people you want to work with. Oftentimes, you can find some sort of mutually beneficial way to work together, or it's just a good contact. But I think a lot of times I see people get very scared and be like, oh, I can't talk to that person. They're so, above me or whatever. And I'm like, go for it. Send them an email and say, hey, I really admire your work and what you do. My name is da-da-da. This is what I do. I'd love to connect. We can't invite each other out to coffee anymore, but there are lots of ways, I think, to get out there. And networking is a big part of it.
And it's a muscle that you just have to exercise. I'm an introvert, and it used to be terrifying to get up in front of a group of people and speak, and it still kind of is sometimes. But if you exercise that muscle, then it becomes easier each time. So you just have to kick yourself out there into the crowd and do it.
God, I love that. That's a great tip, Jessica. And you addressed some stuff, Julia, that I think is really important. I went to an actual in-person art show Friday evening. Everybody was masked. It was socially distanced. I spoke to multiple artists, probably 5 artists total. The 2 that were in the show, and then people running gallery, they're artists, and not a single one of them had business cards. And I can't tell you, our friend Bob Ragland, who I love, longtime Denver artist. Here we go. Mm-hmm. We're going to hit all the points this time on this episode, Wes. He's big on business cards or having a postcard that has your contact info, how people can reach out to you, because maybe at the moment, I saw a piece that I really enjoyed, and I'm kind of mulling it over whether or not I want to purchase this piece. If I didn't personally know the artist or what have you, or if I was just visiting from out of town, there's not lost opportunity there because I didn't. And granted, you can track people down on social media or what have you, their website these days, but the business card is still important, or having some kind of information about how people can contact you. And 5 artists, and I was keeping track in my brain. Another artist, oh yeah, they're digging through their wallet, or they're, oh yeah, I always forget to bring business cards. But gosh darn it, it's such an important thing. I had a pile that thick of tenant business cards, that have QR codes on the back that you can scan and go to our archive on the different platforms. I probably passed out 8 of those, in the course of the hour or so that I was down there.
Yeah. I always have postcards that are like front and back and have information with your website, and multiple modes of contact. So your social media handles, your website, and even your phone number. Because some people, I remember a time when you called me, you're like, I'm old school. I like phones, So for people like that, have different ways for people to get in touch with you.
Todd's just old. Not as old as Wes, though. No, I think that's great. Yeah, Todd, that's great advice. You got to have business cards with you. And I love our little QR codes on the back of our cards. So if you have a smartphone, all I have to do is flip the card over, and you can shoot the QR code and go right to our episodes. And that's just a great tool. And that'd be a great thing for artists. If you want to drive them to your website, have a QR code of your website on the back. They got their smartphone. They're going right to your website.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, the gallery owner, when I handed him a card and I pointed out the QR codes on the back, he was just kind of a little bit blown away. He's like, I can listen to this right now. I'm like, yeah, man, get your phone out, scan it, and start listening to us. I don't know if that's something you want to do, but
it's a great idea to listen to right now.
Yeah.
In fact, I might turn on one right now. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
That was Wes and his wife's grand idea, and I thought that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, there's so many different ways to connect with people now, and that's just one of the ways. It's really cool. Yeah. I think there's a democratization that's taking place for ways for artists and creatives as a whole to connect with the general public.
Yeah.
Because I'm remembering, I'm old, back when, you applied to galleries with slides and cover letters and,
so grateful that's no longer.
Yeah.
Walking with your little portfolio.
Never do that. Never walk into any gallery with your portfolio. Don't ever.
See, number one, a good tip, and I got it down here. Top 2 tips for emerging artists. There's tip number 1 from you. Right. Don't ever walk in with your portfolio.
Yeah.
No.
No.
What's another one? What's another great tip for an emerging artist, Julia?
I would say put together a really strong portfolio. Like, you need to have a really good portfolio of at least 10 paintings and not all over the place stylistically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not
like
paintings.
A body of work.
Paintings, a body of work. Yeah.
A consistent body of work. You need to make sure like your artist statement does not have typographical errors. That's another big one.
Yeah, that would be. Go find somebody who's an English major to read your artist statements. And
I have a website. I still meet people who don't have websites.
Yeah. I you got to have a website, even if it's just almost like a electronic brochure to show your artwork and how to get a hold of you. Mm-hmm. Basic minimum.
Another one is don't put up poorly shot photos of your work that you've shot on your cell phone. Like, that's just awful. Yeah. Like, really, you need to have some good quality images. I'm sure you both can attest to that.
I have a friend here in Rapid City that does a lot of artists' artwork, and that's what I mean. It's color calibrated, and so everything is like just right on. So, and he sits and he's very meticulous, but he is a busy guy because the artists come to him for their images of their artwork. And so find a photographer, somebody like Todd that, I don't know if Todd's in, like, thanks, Wes. Now I'm going to have a bunch of artists take he's a commercial photographer, but find somebody that can do that kind of work and do it well. And that makes all the difference too.
Yeah, we talk
you have
about
to invest in it.
Yeah, like I invested in good lighting equipment and a good camera, and it's literally paid itself back at this point. But if you can't do it and you need pros, then find a good photographer.
Yeah. That knows how to light it. That's
exactly
the basic thing. Yep. Great tips. Thanks. That's awesome. So I'm going to chalk that off. There's some great, if you're an emerging artist and you're listening to this right now, you better be writing these down because this is some like solid stuff. I appreciate it.
One thing that I notice in researching artists to come on the podcast, and I'm constantly looking at different websites, is ease of navigation and the ability to load relatively quickly. Because if I have to sit there for 45 seconds while images load, I'm going to move on. Even as a photographer and everything, if it doesn't load fast or it's hard to navigate or I have to keep on going back to a page to get back to a menu or whatever, if it's not easy to navigate, I'm not going to spend much time on it.
Yes, so true. And if it's not optimized for mobile, then oh my gosh, because we're all on our phones mostly.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Jessica designs beautiful artist websites.
Nice.
They're beautiful. Yeah. Inspire.
Also having a thank you, Julia.
Give me a plug.
Also having, I mean, like Julia mentioned on the business card, having multiple modes of communication or contact rather on your website is really important. So not just an email form, but also a phone number to call, an email address. The social media should be integrated so that somebody can reach out if they want to buy something. That's what we want.
And I want to be able to find it because I don't know if you guys knew it, but I went to all your websites today and I clicked on the Instagram connection to connect to follow you. And I want to be able to find it. I don't want to have to hunt for it. I don't want it. I like it on the main page if you can, because I want to, like, I just want to click and I'm following you on the Instagram and I'm looking forward to that. So make it easy to, like Todd said, to navigate and to find stuff that are important. So it's amazing. Like I have a lot of clients that I can't even find their phone number. Like I'm like, okay, I don't remember your phone number. Now I do Zoho, so it's in my phone, but man, it's like it's buried under like a contact me at the bottom of the page in the lower banner. And it's just like, well, even if it's down in the lower banner, at least that's one place I usually go to get address, phone number. It's amazing how many people forget just contact information. So yes, it's so important to be able to get a hold of people. So
yeah.
And being old school, I hate when there's not, when all there is an email form. That drives me out of my mind because I just feel like I'm just sending information into the ether. But
no, and I understand why they do it because it's security, because there's so many bots out there that will pull emails and then you'll get spammed. But filling out that form and then you hit send. And if you get nothing back, like you should get a return email or some kind of notification, because I've sent that and I've sent it and been like, well, I don't know. I hope they got it. And we'll see, I guess.
I respond to those immediately when I get them because I know people feel that way.
Right.
Checking your DMs on your Instagram because those will pop in there every now and then. And you're like, oh no, how long has that been there? So making sure you check those. But there's a lot of ways for people to get in touch with each other now, and you have to keep up on it.
And those can be time consuming as well. And I've made on all my years, I've made tons of mistakes where I didn't contact people back right away. So it's easy to do.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Todd's always sending me, hey, did you see that email I sent you yesterday? No, I haven't opened my email yet, Todd. I'm sorry. Only got like 6 email addresses that I'm, so I'm horrible at it too. So I'm just as guilty. So
how do you feel about snail mail?
I love snail mail.
Is it still a viable thing?
I'm going to let you.
I think so. Just because it stands out. It's unusual to get something via snail mail. So, I mean if I have a show, I definitely have like a mailing list and I send out postcards. And, it's that tangible something that somebody can put up on their fridge. So I think there's still value there.
Yeah.
I've used it more as to send portfolios. I've had portfolio books printed and, write a nice letter and send that to whomever I'm trying to get in touch with. I've had good success with that because it feels special.
Yeah.
Sorry, Julia. And I send thank you cards to collectors. I send thank you cards for our business when we get a new client at the close of a project. Just something handwritten that is branded. And I've always gotten really good feedback that people like that. So I think it stands out. It's just, it's different.
Bob Ragland. I'm going to go back to Bob Ragland. How many times, this should be a drinking game for Bob Ragland tonight because we've said it, I don't know how many times. But the cool thing, when he'll do snail mail and because he's old school. Big time old school.
He's 82,
so he's old school. But he does little paintings on them. The envelope will have a little drawing that he's done. So man, like you should be sending, and I should be too. Should be sending Bob just some mail, just in the hopes that he'll reply to you with a little piece of with an original raglan on the envelope.
I love that.
It's phenomenal.
Meet this guy.
Yeah. Oh, he's intense. He's awesome. He's a great guy.
Yeah.
I want to get on his mailing list.
Yeah.
He's all about the business. And so because he's older and unfortunately his car was stolen on New Year's Eve, which that's horrible. Really disappointing. He literally has not been to the grocery store. I think he told me since February of last year. He's had food drops from people that support him as an artist.
Wow.
And people will bring him, he likes his wine. So they'll bring him some vino. They'll bring him a box of food. And through this whole pandemic, he has been supported by his, art collectors and friends and it's all because he does this outreach all the time via the U.S. Postal Service.
That's amazing.
He stays in contact.
And Todd's dropped stuff off and James Holmes. And so, I mean, that's just wonderful when the community comes, and he's got great neighbors too that watch out for him. So, when you have a community like that, that's so important, and you can't make that happen without reaching out to people. So,
I think the having an artist community, having friends who are also artists and, in your line of work, shall we say, just people to bounce ideas off of, vent to. Anna Kay, you mentioned, she's one of my closest friends, and then Jessica and I are always talking, and I think it's important as an artist because we do get holed into our little silos, making artwork and going, what am I doing with my life?
Right.
You don't feel as weird and alone if you have a little tribe of people that are like you.
We call it building your tribe. Yeah, like finding connection with other creatives, because the creative community is we're very resilient, and people tend to, I think, have each other's backs a lot. It's not as backstabby here in Denver, I would say, as I think it could be. Like, I feel like people are really trying to pull together, especially in COVID times.
Yeah. I've experienced both kinds. I've experienced photographers that, if you have a question for them, just like technique or whatever, they don't want to tell you because it's like their trade secret and their special way they light. And, and then I've had like the podcast community was my big awakening where, like, if you have a question, you call somebody and they're like, hey, I'll come over and we'll go through all this with you. And they just could tell you all this. They're just so excited that you're doing a podcast too. And it was just like
I love that.
And it's just amazing how open and willing people are to share. And I even experienced this week where I had a nonprofit in town reach out to me going, hey, I know you guys do a podcast. And I was kind of like, hey, I'll come over and we can do it. And so I've experienced the same thing. I just love sharing tips. And Mike Wolfert, the guy that I told you about who does artist paintings, if you ever want to know anything about Photoshop, not only will he tell you, he'll sit down and show you. And it's just like, and these are things that he's just so excited to share. So it's great to have a tribe that's willing to help each other out and answer questions.
With artboss, we've really tried to build that sense of community. And it's been a little harder, I think, with the online stuff to get that sense of people meeting each other and connecting. But when we were doing stuff in person, a lot of times the attendees would exchange phone numbers and contact each other afterwards and follow up with each other, follow each other on social media, go to each other's shows, and that's how you network and build. It feels like it's just within the community, but it expands from there.
Yeah. And I think
with artboss, we really try to encourage that.
Yeah. And I think a good way to do that for people like you that are helping artists is make them a cohort where they have this unity. They're a tribe in their own group. Like, the Chamber of Commerce do that a lot with their leadership things. They'll have a cohort, and those cohorts, they bunch together, and then they'll have like this reunion. They're all together. Like, I was in this cohort. And, if you guys did that with the artists and said, here's your cohort, this is the class of whatever, it really kind of builds a community, a tribe in a sense.
Yeah, that's a really good idea.
Yeah. And it kind of happens on its own. If you have a small workshop, between 6 and 10 people, which we've had very small workshops before, especially the one at the Curtis Center, right? Jessica's only 6 people in each class. It kind of naturally happens. It's really fun to watch, I think.
Yeah.
So I know there's a place like Redline Artist Residency Space in Denver. They have people, they're in residency together for 2 years. And I know that they develop really deep connections with one another.
Yeah. And I did my master's, and it was the same experience because we all was one group of people going through this 2.5 year endeavor. And I still have really good friends from my master's program. So same kind of concept. It's wonderful to see.
I want to ask you real quick, and we'll start to wrap this up. The blog. Obviously, you talked about email newsletters, which are really important, and you can get a lot of feedback and response from those. Is the blog still a viable tool? I mean, it's another tool, but I go to so many websites where people are not consistent with their blogs. Like, they're at least 9 months to a year old. And when I see that, I might read the first one, but I'm not going to explore too far in if I see that they're not keeping up on it.
Yeah, I feel like they're really important still because a successful website is one that is constantly being updated, right? So to have that place where there's either a vlog or a blog where you're posting regularly. And what's helpful is to think about you don't have to create organic content for all of these different platforms. You could write a blog post. Part of that could go into an email newsletter. Part of that could then go into social media. And so really infusing that content into all of these different platforms makes it a little easier to use all of them.
I love that tip because you don't have to reinvent the wheel each time. I do the same thing with social media where I'll make a post on one platform and I don't want it to necessarily be the exact same. Sometimes it is. Sometimes I'll just cut and paste and, throw it up if I don't have a lot of time, but I always try to mix it up at least a little bit with the verbiage. But I use that one post that I originally wrote as the foundation, and then I'll just change a few things.
It is hard to be regular with your posts. And so also not being hard on yourself. I think, using those tools that we talked about, scheduling things. If you are in like a really prolific writing thing, then write several posts at once in that space, and then you can pull from it going forward.
Oh, that's a really great tip too. Because there's some days where I struggle to make one post and it might take me an hour, or not an hour, but like half an hour or so, and I'll read with my brain the way it works sometimes. I'll go back and reread it. And even though I've read it 3 times, I'll see that I've omitted like words in there, in my brain, I thought it, but I did. So I definitely proofread, and some days it's harder than others, but I'll tell you, the more I've done it, the better off the better I've become at it. Like, I've become a better writer in the last year because I'm constantly doing these social media posts.
Yeah, and I like batching work. A lot of go back to podcasters. A lot of podcasts. I know a few of them that do daily, and they're like, "How can you do one every day?" Well, they batch everything. They batch their interviews into 2 days, and then they batch their editing, and they batch their releases, and they're scheduling their releases out. You can do the same thing with your blog. If you're in a writing mood, just pound out a couple different extras, and then store them off to the side and then release them when you need to. And I think the other thing is be consistent. If like a monthly newsletter, if you don't need to do a weekly. And if you set that expectation saying, hey, and look out for my monthly newsletter, and then you're doing it on a month, people will, they don't necessarily care that you're doing it every day or every week or, but be consistent. And I think it's important. And Julia, you were going to say something. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, I use blogging as a kind of a tool to dive deep into a subject that I can't necessarily dive deep into on social media. So on my personal website, I do that. But also I think pick what you can be consistent with and what works for your schedule. And the more you're consistent, people come to expect it. And that's a good way to work around it.
Yeah. Great advice.
Awesome. Anything else that you would like to speak to about ArtBoss, or anything else the artists should be thinking of in this new year?
Just keep remaining nimble. As we go forward, we don't know what's happening this year. So just keep being creative, keep making work, keep showing up, and just be nimble.
Yeah, and I think just for ArtBoss, we're here. If people need to reach out and discuss how to pivot, we don't have any specific workshops coming up. Jessica's expecting.
A baby. Babies, right?
Babies.
Twins.
2 boys.
2 boys. Oh, that's so great. That's awesome.
Congratulations. That's so awesome.
Thank you. I'm mildly freaking out every day because
it's going to be amazing. I just can't wait to be auntie.
What'd you say, Julie?
I'm just excited to be an auntie and have babies to squish.
Right? Well, I was lamenting that fact the other night actually my wife brought it up last night. She's like, does it feel weird that we're getting close to being empty nesters? And I'm like, yeah, it makes me a little sad. I'm like, I miss having my kids be that age or holding my little babies. I miss that, they're all grown up now. So enjoy it while you can, because you both know, having kids already, that it goes fast, and in a blink of an eye, they change so quickly.
Yeah,
it really does.
It's been weird for me because I'm not that I don't like children, because I do like children, but I've noticed that since this pandemic, that I see a newborn baby on TV or something, I'm like, oh my God, that's so cute. I want to hold it.
I've always been like that.
And now I even get passionate with baby goats on TikTok. I'm like, oh, I want to go pet a goat. Anyway, Julia, you were going to say something far more important.
So we don't have specific workshops scheduled right now, but we're working on the 2021 online schedule, and just anybody wants to reach out, artboss.co.
Yeah, we're here for everyone.
Fantastic. And you're still doing coaching even though the workshops aren't scheduled out yet. So you can reach out to Julia and Jessica and set up a time to do one of these personal coaching sessions with them. So you can find that on their website, artboss.co, not com, C-O. Julia, tell our listeners your personal website where they can see your artwork.
It's juliarymer.com. Rymer is spelled R-Y-M-E-R. And I do have a show coming up. I have to give a plug. It opens January 19th at Regis University in Denver's O'Sullivan Art Gallery. So just go to my website, juliarymer.com, for details.
Perfect.
Jessica, you want to share your website with?
Yeah.
Or websites, I should say.
Yeah, of course. So my artwork, it can be viewed at jessicaloving.com. And my design studio, inspire.graphics.
And as always, I will make sure that all that information is in our episode notes. Julia, Jessica, it's been an absolute honor and privilege to sit down with you today. I really appreciate you sharing all this information. listeners, please check out their website. I mean, $99 for an hour coaching session that might push you into a different realm and get you off on the right foot for the new year. I don't think it gets any better than that.
And I have to say, both you are just beautiful people and beautiful people on the inside. I can tell. It's just been an absolute joy to talk to you and to see you. So that was awesome. And I wish you the absolute best luck this year, this 2021, and reach out to us and let us know how things are going. And we want to be able to share what you guys have got going, both in your art world and in your business, Art Boss. So reach out to us and we'll continue to share your stuff.
Thank you. And we are so appreciative of this opportunity to chat with you. It was so much fun. So thank you for the great conversation. Thank you for sharing Art Boss with everybody. And we're just so grateful. Wishing you guys the best for 2021.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
For the Tenant Podcast, I'm Todd Pearson.
And I'm Wes Brown.
Have a great week.
We nailed it. The first time in like a month we've nailed it.